Alright, this is going to be a complete walkthrough for RigHelper. It's probably going to be about an hour, maybe longer, because I'll be explaining stuff as I go along. If you don't have that kind of time, then you can check out my quick start video, which just kind of goes over all of the features and what they do of the script. But if you want to see my workflow, then this is going to be a good video for you, because I'm literally going to go over everything and exactly how I set up my characters. So let's get started. The first thing to do is load RigHelper. So just click source script and find wherever you saved the script, and that loads the code. And then you just type RigHelper, all one word with a capital H, in this mailbox down here, and you got the GUI. And we're ready to get started. So this is a completed rig actually, sans the facial GUI. But I'm going to start from scratch. So let's unparent this mesh and delete the rig. Okay, so when you start, you should have something like this. You have a character that is in a layer, maybe, it doesn't have to be. My character in this particular instance is one mesh, but if you have a multiple mesh character, that's fine. I actually do that for some games, so it's not a big deal if it's not one piece. And the reason why I put it in a layer is so I can reference it, so I don't accidentally select it. Okay, so the first thing to do is decide how many spine joints, fingers, and these options. You got stretching and facial rig. The facial rig checkbox is for a joint-based facial rig. If you like working with blend shapes, then do not check this box unless you want to do a mix, which is bad. Well, I would just not suggest it because blend shapes and joints just don't mix very well. Okay, I like doing 3 spine joints, but you can be ridiculous and do 24 or 1. 3 to 6 is about normal. I just do 3 because it's less work on me, and you get fine results with 3, so 3 it is. And fingers, this character has 5, but if you had a character with 4, that's fine. Or a character with mittens, you can do 1. Or 9 if you have some sort of tentacle alien thing. But I'm going to do 5 for this video. Stretchy is the squash and stretch rig for arms, torso, legs, neck, and I think that's it. Okay, so I'm going to keep these settings and make my skeleton proxy, and I'm going to close Skype so I don't have it flashing through the whole video. Okay, so after you click that button, you're going to get something like this, and this means that you need to place the joints. The first step though is to move this mover to make your life a little bit easier. So I'm just going to kind of line it up with the mesh. You can scale down too, that's fine. Just saves a little bit of time. And now we just place the joints. So I'm going to turn edge faces on so I can see my edge loops. And we got our hip here. I like putting the hip a little bit more forward in the mesh. That's really just your preference. Get the hell set up. And then I'm going to line this joint chain up with my ankle. Now you can either do this, or you can rotate it like that. But if you rotate it like this, you're going to want to change the rotation on the ankle, or else your control is going to be slanted, which is just not neat. So you can just copy this rotation value from the hip and then go down to your ankle and make it negative. And now it's perfectly straight up and down. So that's what I like doing. But usually I just move, even if the joint chain is like towards the side of the hip, it'll work fine. Like if it's over here, it's fine. But you can do it either way. Okay, and that's actually decent for the knee. And then the ankle goes fairly low. Sort of like that. One thing that I should mention though is you don't want to translate this like this, because now look at your leg chain. If you apply an IK to that, it'll freak out. So just keep it straight and you will not have problems. Okay. So we got our hip, our knee placed, and our ankle placed. Once you get down here, you have some locators. Oops. Alt B is to change the background. And that's even kind of bright. Yeah, that's better. Okay, and these locators are just for the reverse foot. So all you need to do is kind of put them where the name suggests they should go. Left bank. Remember, we're considering the character's orientation, so left, right bank. Sound alright. We got our heel. Goes right in the heel. And the toe just goes right on the toe. And in this case, this character's foot is kind of weird because the shoe kind of like dips up. I guess that wouldn't be a dip. It'd be, I don't know what it'd be. So I'm just going to kind of put it somewhere in the middle here. It'll be fine. Next we got our roots. Moving up. The root is where the hips will be, and the hips kind of rotate from here. So I'll just put that right here. And we got our spine joints. Spine 1, good enough. Spine 2. Looks good. And spine 3. I like to keep all my spine joints below the breast of your character because you don't really get much bend up here. You can put a joint up here. If I had a character with 4 spine joints, I would put one up here. But usually I do like 2 here and 1 right under the breast. Because if you put 1 right here, it'll just, your deformations will be terrible in the breast area, and it'll just be a nightmare trying to skin it. So right about there is good. Now we got our neck here. This first neck joint goes at the base of the neck, and the second one goes at the top. This is our eyelid joint. You just put it in the center of your eye geometry. And don't forget to center it in all views. Okay. Oh yeah, the jaw. Need to do the jaw. I like to put my jaw right here. And then we got the tongue too. The first tongue joint goes at the base of the tongue. And then the second one goes where the tongue would pivot up to make an L shape. So I think that's about good. Okay, so now we can do the arm chain. The same kind of concept applies to the arm chain as the leg chain it's better to rotate your chain than move it like that. It just keeps you from getting in trouble. Well, I guess I should say you shouldn't rotate like this, or else your IK will flip out. Okay, clavicle isn't too important where you place it, I've found. Just try to keep it towards the middle line. And then I should put my shoulder about right here. A little bit past the armpit and towards the middle. I find usually works good. Okay. And the elbow. Put about right there. And then the wrist. Also, you can translate, rotate, and scale any joint. That's fine, just as long as you don't move your joint in stupid directions like this. Okay. Like if you wanted to move this up or down, you would select the shoulder and rotate it. So that looks pretty good. Onto the fingers. I'm just going to go in the top view real quick and put them in the general location. Finger A is always a thumb. Or I mean finger 1, my bad. So I'm just going to try set the thumb aside for now. And I'm going to worry about the other 4 fingers. I had to make a fist real quick. Yeah, these 2 end fingers, the pinky and the ring finger, kind of sit a little bit further back. And the middle one's a little bit further. I mean, this isn't anatomically correct, but it'll at least give you a decent looking fist. And we can get away with a lot since this character is stylized anyways. Okay, so that's about good for lining them up. Just raise them up a little bit. Right there, rotate them down. And I'm trying to see if I sculpted any detail into the... There is a little bit of detail there, so I can kind of see where I place my creases in the finger. Because even if it's not where you think it should be, it's probably a good idea to put your finger joints where the artist put them, or else it's just gonna look weird. In this case, I'm the artist, so I can blame myself if it's bad. I guess I should say I can't blame anyone else. Okay. Placing finger joints, lots of fun. And I will post this particular rig on Creative Crash when I'm done with it after this video. So if you want to see exactly how my file's set up, you can take a look at that. And you are free to use this rig however you want. Because I like making stuff for free. Because this stuff is fun. Alright, just about done. Um, One thing to note, I should have said this earlier, is that the orientation that you give these joints will be used in the rig. So you don't want to go crazy and do some weird rotations. The z-axis is going to be the one that's rotating. So sometimes it's good to just go in here and check. This is how your finger's going to curl. Okay, so after I'm done placing the joints, maybe I can select all these joints and rotate Z, and this is what my finger rotation is going to look like. And that looks okay. There's tons of attributes to control the finger, so as long as it's decent, you can go in here and make complex hand gestures. Okay, now the thumb, which is the most important to get right. Remember our z-axis rule? We need to line up the z-axis with the thumb. So the first thing I'll kind of do is line up the joint chain a little bit, and then I rotate X to line up that z-axis. Yeah, I think this needs to come up a little bit actually. Yeah. So that is good. And now I can place my joints. Okay, and you're noticing that I do not, or maybe you are, not worrying about these end joints. That's because they're just placeholders on the rig, and they don't really do anything. Okay, moving along. Now we have to place the facial joints, which is one of the easiest things. All you do is snap the joints to your mesh, and they're all named. Brow 1 is the inside brow. Brow 2 is the middle. Brow 3 is the end. And just make sure that doesn't go behind the mesh, because that happens often actually. Okay, we got our cheekbone, somewhere right there. Nostril. Cheek 1 is, I guess this character has only one cheek on the left side, so you should be able to tell where that goes. I like to put the mouth joints above the upper lip and below the lower lip, because then when you rotate it you can get like this lip rolling effect. Okay, lower mouth. Somewhere about right there is good. Just right in the edge. Alright, and corner mouth just goes in the corner of the mouth. Put it down here. Okay, so once you have all your joints placed, you're going to want to save this out as a new file. And now you're ready to move on to the next step, which is making your controls. So you just click that button, and it sets out some boxes for you. And what you need to do is shape these however you want. And you have to do it in component mode. So press F8 to get into that component mode. And I can't see my components. Okay, it's because I was in... Why is everything faceted? Alright, some technical difficulties, but I think it's okay. Anyways, yeah, just shape your controls however you want. Boxes are generally IK. Circles are generally FK. And they're all named anyway, so you should be able to tell what they are. I'll just do a quick example real quick. You can make this any shape that you want, so maybe you want to make this like an arrow kind of shape. You can do wacky stuff like this. You can do whatever you want with these. They're just circles and boxes. I like to keep it simple though. And the main thing is just keeping them non-obtrusive and in a position that makes sense for the animator. Because animators are picky. Okay. This is the clavicle. Don't forget about shapes that are hidden inside the mesh. I'll go through all of them so you don't miss any. The clavicle is always hidden because your clavicle should be inside your mesh. All your joints should be inside your mesh actually, but the clavicle's way in there. I like to put my clavicle like way up here, but you can put it wherever you want. It doesn't change the transform, it just changes the position of the shape. And we have our spine, IK here. This kind of looks weird. I'm gonna do this. That looks weird too. Oh man. I'll just leave it. I don't like using an IK controller anyways. And you should just select all the spine joints at the same time. I mean all the spine controls at the same time and shaping them. Okay, I don't know why this one's backwards, but it is. It's really weird. Okay, we got our root controller here. It's actually in kind of a decent spot. And our hip controller here. Okay, and you have some bendy controls for the leg. And there's the leg control. I like to snap it to the grid because that just makes sense. And this box down here is just your mover, so just make sure it's not in the way of your foot control, or else you'll get mad when you start animating. This box on the neck is the head controller. And hidden in here we got the jaw and the tongue. And super hidden we have eyelid 1 and eyelid 2. And I'm just gonna make sure that the head looks good from the front. Okay. And the face controls, I usually just leave them as is, because they're just boxes and I think they're fine. Alright, that's everything. This is a finger controller, but it's usually good. So at this point you're going to want to save out the file as a new file again, because what this file can do for you is be kind of a saving point for you. So if I ever update RigHelper, all you have to do is come back to this file and click Setup Rig, and you have an updated rig. So let's go save this as a new file. But sometimes I do crazy updates and you have to go back to the joint part, or sometimes you just have to completely redo it because I'm a jerk like that. Okay, so next thing to do is set up your rig. And I have some warnings because when I deleted the rig, it didn't delete all the nodes, but everything should be working properly here. If you ever want to view the nodes, all you gotta do is go in your outliner, right click, and click this show DAG objects only, and that'll show you all of them nodes. All of them nodes, there's a lot of nodes. This is nothing though. There will be much more nodes. Get rid of these tweaks. I'm always in here deleting shit, even though I shouldn't be, because I want my scene to be clean. Sometimes there's these curve nodes that I just hate, and I always delete them. I always look for them. Looks like we're good though. Okay, so at this point you have a fully functional rig, and now it's time to skin it. Click lock and hide though, and that will get rid of a lot of junk, and it will lock attributes that you don't need. Okay, so let's skin our rig. In order to skin our rig, we need to make our skeleton, and that is in this skinning tab in the setup bound skeleton window. Prefix is just whatever you want before the name of the bone. You don't have to put anything in here, but I like to do B because I think that's a UDK naming scheme. So I just usually do that, even though I mainly use UD. Neck twist joints. If you're doing film, just check all these. You don't give a crap. You can do whatever you want. If you're doing a game, this is where you might want to focus on these. Maybe you don't need neck twist joints. Upper arm, I can live with one. Forearm can live with one. Thigh and shin, don't need them. But since we're doing film, we don't care. We are inefficient. So after you decide what you want to do here, just click Make My Skull. And that just sets up a nice clean skeleton for you to skin. So after that we can select our skeleton, shift click our mesh, and skin it. And now we have a fully functional rig that is bound to our skin. But we have this awesome Maya skinning. If you want to go ahead and play around with the smooth bind options, you can do that. So let's try to get a better result. I usually just don't even care and just go for the manual skinning. I want to make sure that there are no tweaks. Tweaks are gone. Okay. If you ever want to know where your skeleton is, just go in the character node, the mover, and they're under this joints group. This ENJ cryptic name root is the driver for the rig, is the driver chain. And this nicely named reference bone right here is your skin joint. And you can see here's our nice names. This stuff is just ugly. It's DRJ joint. The only reason I do that stuff is to make my scripting side easier. So let's select reference and go joint hierarchy. We'll do heat map because heat map gives you the best results. since we're doing a film character, we can go ahead and do weight blended for our skinning method. Normalize weights. I start off with interactive, and I'll show you why when I get to skinning. Weight distribution, distance is best because with my twist joints, they're not in a linear path down the chain. So distance is the best option here. Max influences, I always just stick with 3. I do not want more than 3 influences on any vert. Because it can get messy with a ton. But you can do like 6 or you can do whatever you want here. I just like 3. Drop off rate, put that 10. And yeah, I think that's good here. So let's see how that does. Select our reference mesh and apply. Non-manifold geometry. I'm not going to do this because it'll take a long time. If your mesh isn't perfect, then you cannot do heat map, so screw that. But anyways, heat map gives you the best results. Okay, so now that we have our skin, or our mesh bound to the rig, we can go ahead and paint skin weights. So I wrote some tools to help you out. First thing you're going to want to do is find the name of your mesh, or the piece that you're working on. Paste in that box. And then click this load influences, and that will prep up this weight percent tool. And I'm going to rename my skin cluster to care skin or whatever you want. You don't have to do that. I just like to keep it neat. And this button here is to put you in paint skin weights mode in case you want to keep your mesh referenced. Just click that button, it puts you in paint skin weights mode. And the main tool we're going to be using here is this weight percent tool. It's kind of like 3ds Max's weight percent tool, but in Maya. So the first thing that I'm going to do that might make you cringe is I'm going to assign a weight of 1 to everything. I mean 1 to hips. I am extremely sleep deprived right now, I can't even talk. So now that everything is assigned to hips, we can kind of go through and block out our weights. So I'm not going to be too particular here, I'm just selecting verts I think should be applied to certain joints. So this looks like a pretty good selection for our hips. Maybe I'll add sloop. Oops. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Okay. I guess I'll do a main one. Oops. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to, at this point, assign everything a value of 1. So, left hip is right at the bottom somewhere. There you go, left hip, assign weights. And then at this point we can just kind of shrink selection. Until we get what we want. And at this point I'm just going to assign all of these values to knee 2. We'll worry about knee 1 later. And it's important to be in interactive mode during this step, or else everything that you apply will be applied at half the value that you think it would be, because post mode will apply a value of 1 to 2 influences, or it'll keep the previous influence and they'll blend it with the new one, and 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. So that's why that will happen. That probably made no sense, but just believe me, be in interactive mode for this step at least. The only time I go into post mode is when I need to smooth my skin weights in paint scan weights mode. Okay, so let's apply this to angle, and then we'll go ahead and do ball. That's about good for ball. Assign weights. And I'm not going to skin the whole character because that'll take a really long time, and that's just a waste of time in this video. So at this point you have something like this, very blocky weights, which is good, that's what we wanted, but it's very clean. So usually after I block out all my weights like this, I will click this smooth all weights button, but before I do that I'll actually mirror my weights. There we go. So let's smooth all weights a few times. And it takes a long time. If your mesh is really high density, it'll take even longer. This isn't too bad. This is 30k faces. So I'm gonna do that again. And don't forget, if you want to have a rubber hose effect on your rig, you are going to have to skin all the twist joints. So in the hip there's 3 twist joints. They're called thigh twist, 1, 2, and 3. And then the shin there's 3 as well, shin 1, 2, and 3. And 1 is at the top, 2 is in the middle, and 3 is at the bottom. You can always unhide your skeleton too if you're unsure of where a joint is. Same thing with the arm. So I'm not going to click that again because it takes a really long time. Let's just see what we got. That's actually not that bad. And that took like no time at all, so imagine blocking out your whole character with that tool. Would probably take 15 minutes, and then you smooth it twice, 2 or 3 times, and you get results like this, which is really good for 20 minutes of work, because skinning usually takes a really long time. I will go over skinning the face though, because that is a complex task, and I'm sure some people will want to know about that. So I'll just go over my method for that. First thing I do is select everything that I think should be neck 2, which is about this much. So let's assign that to neck 2, or I guess it's called neck, or head, it's called head, my bad. This new joint naming scheme is messing me up. So let's assign value 1 to head. And the next thing we want to do is the jaw. it can be tricky to paint scan weights on the jaw, so that's why this scanning tool is so useful. So what I'm going to do is just select a loop from the inside of the mouth bag to the outside of the lip. Like that, and then I'll select the other side too. Oh my god, I hate that so much. Whatever, I'll zoom manually. Oh, it's hidden. Oh, I can't get in there. There we go. Okay, so now I have something like this. I have a little strip selected from the inside of the mouth bag to like sort of the midpoint of the chin. And what I couldn't do from here is just scroll my selection. And now I have sort of what I want for the jaw. So hold Control and right click and go to vertices. And now we can use our weight tool to assign that to jaw. It's going to take a little bit of time. My computer's very slow, so it takes its time. And now we should have, or should be able to split the mouth apart. And it looks really creepy right now, but that's okay, we'll fix it. And so now we can do the corner mouth and all that jazz a little bit easier. So maybe I'll select like these faces here and grow my selection a few times. Assign that to corner mouth. Left corner mouth to be exact. And that's right here. Okay. And now we can do our upper lip. And I'm going to be using that grow selection trick a lot. So maybe something like this. Usually want to go pretty high though. I think that's about good. So upper mouth. And we got the lower lip. That looks about good. Lower mouth. Oops, I forgot to change that to vertices. That's like, why isn't my computer lagging? Because it doesn't do anything. And you can always go in here and test what's going on too. Move some controls around. Okay, so now we can do our nostril. You know, once you get past the mouth, you can just go in the paint scan weights tool. I just like to use a weight percent tool for the mouth because it's kind of hard to get to some places with the paint tool. So let's go on to the head joints. They're at the bottom. They should be at the bottom. They're on their neck. Here we go. Brow 1. Replace with the value 1 on interactive. Something like that. Doesn't matter if you overlap a little bit because you're just replacing values. Okay. Brow 3. Got our cheek. About right there. Cheekbone. The left eyes. All of this stuff. I worry about the eyelids last. Got our nostril. Because the eyelids are something I'll just do with the weight percent tool. Okay. And that's it. Okay, so let's mirror these over, and then we'll start smoothing. For this, I would rather use the paint scan weights tool to smooth stuff out, and didn't even mirror it that great. Let's try to close that jaw and then mirror it. That's better. Well, it doesn't look better, but it's better for what we want. So for smoothing, I go into post mode, and then just start smoothing. I'm gonna use a Wacom tablet, so I don't click 10 million times. Alright, I'm used to using ZBrush with this thing. Oh god, okay. How do I rotate? There we go. Up. Okay, I think I'm good now. Rotate. Damn it! Oh, I keep right clicking for rotating. What the fuck? Okay. Why can't I select anything? I really goofed now. I can't select anything. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and save this file as a new file because we don't want to overwrite that control file. I'm gonna restart Maya because I cannot select anything. There we go. Alright, I don't know why that happened. Okay, back to painting skin weights. Okay, I think I remember how to use this thing with Maya now. Let's start with the brow. Sure, why not? Smooth it out. Pretty much everything on the face is going to be very smoothed out. That's the only way it'll look good. or else you'll get something like this that's just really creepy. And remember in post mode that you have to smooth everything for it to work properly. Oh god, now when I go use ZBrush, I'm going to be stupid too. Because I'm going to get used to this. See, you can kind of see now that we smoothed both sides that it's starting to look better. Lower mouth. I think I forgot. Oh, I forgot nostril. Forgot that guy. Yeah, I think I forgot cheek. No, I didn't. Okay, so the next thing you want to smooth is head. Or, yeah, head. And that will make everything look good. Or decent. I forgot to do jaw too. That'll help out a ton. Jaw. Ooh, that's looking really bad. Head. There we go. Yeah. And I'm only doing the left side because I'm gonna mirror it. I think I forgot to smooth that stuff out. Just make sure it's really smooth. Okay, let's go ahead and mirror our waist. Gotta load RigHelper up though. Yes, mirror weights. Oh god. Gotta type in the mesh. Mirror weights. Alright, we got 0 out the control. Okay. Cool. Now I got something that looks pretty good. And if you have teeth as a separate mesh, the easiest way to do this is just double click on the mesh, go verts, and assign that to jaw. Same with tongue, we can actually isolate this guy. Let's assign everything to tongue 1 first. And then deselect some stuff. And assign it to tongue 2. And now I can smooth it out. We're in post mode, right? Freaking post mode. This is tongue 2, replace, and then this is tongue 1, replace. And now I can smooth it out in post mode. Because if you smooth in interactive mode, bad things happen. So just don't do it. Believe me. Tongue 2, smooth it out. Guess we can just flood it too, but I've had bad experiences with using flood as well, so I'm weary of using it. Okay. So we've got something that looks pretty good. Got our nostril, looking good. Let's reference our mesh. Cheek. Could use some work, but it isn't bad. Mainly I just want to show you the method of painting skin weights in the face. Ooh, that's bad. So sometimes when you mirror weights, you get this sharp edge here. which is fine. That means you just have to go in and smooth it out manually. In post mode, remember that. So we got left upper mouth. Let's smooth this guy out a little bit, or a lot of it. And we should have upper mouth somewhere. Or I guess I'll do right lower mouth. There's right upper mouth. That's my general rule for skinning the face, is that you just want it to be very smooth. So left lower mouth. This is a very extreme pose too, so if this looks good, then most everything else will look good. And I need left upper mouth. Where is it? There it is. Okay, and then I'll usually switch interactive so it normalizes all my weights. And we are good to go with our facial rig. I didn't skin the eyelids, so I guess I could do that. Let's see if we can get a smile. Remember, you can always scale these controls too. And you can use RigHelper's fancy your facial controls to get a smile. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna skin the eyelids, which is like one of the worst things in my life. So for this, I'm going to just isolate these faces. Oh, how do I want to do this? This much is really high res. I guess I can try to use the paint skin weights tool. Let's just do that. I don't know how well it will work. So the main thing to do is set some animation. So we'll keyframe it at 0 and then skip to frame 24 and keyframe it shut so we can scrub through the timeline and find out what the heck is going on. So let's paint these eyelids. Upper eyelid, there it is. Replace on interactive. Just gonna do something like that. To start off. So now we get this ugly looking animation, but we'll smooth it out. Okay, I'm gonna get these ones too. Okay, so let's go post and smooth it on out. I'll probably have to give a lot more weight to these corners, but I think this will get us started. I usually never use this method, by the way. I usually always do the weight percent, but I'm just trying to save some time here. Switch interactive so it normalizes our weights. And that's looking nice and terrible. So let's add some weight. I guess we can replace that one again. Oops, what'd I do? How did that end up at off? Post. No interactive. Oops, no. Controlling Z and interactive is usually bad too, but usually you can get away with one undo without it crapping on your face. Okay, let's go post. Smooth it on out. Again, you want to be switching between head and eyelid. Okay, that's looking okay. Maybe we want to add some over here. So I'm going to stay in post now because we do not need to get an absolute value. And I'm going to switch to add mode and put a value of maybe 0.1. Just sort of, oops, not head, upper eyelid, just add a little bit. And then smooth it out. So this edge lip right in here needs more, so let's add some more. Maybe some more here. Smooth it out. Oops, let me do that. Wait, I'm in smooth mode. How about, what the okay. Basically, you just want to get the contour of the bottom lid in your skinning. And you'll be good. So I think I like this. No, stop it. I just want to get that corner a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so that actually doesn't look too bad. I'm surprised that turned out well. So let's just smooth it out a little bit more so we get some even results. Alright, and let's normalize it. And the way that you get it to close all the way, or I guess that doesn't matter because we haven't set up the iRig yet. So that looks okay for what we want. I'll show you what I was talking about in a second. Let's go ahead and save it. So that's how you paint skin weights on the eyelid. You just do the same method for each one, but I usually just use the weight percent tool. So now at this point I would go ahead and set up the facial GUI. So let's go to the facial GUI tab, make that GUI mover, make our iRig, and then prepare our facial network. Preparing your facial network is only if you have the joint base rig, which is these boxes here that we just skinned. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then move on to the custom GUI tab. If you want to use blend shapes, go ahead and check out my setting up the blend shape rig video. It's on the Creative Crash page. And that will explain how to do that. It's kind of outdated. Actually, it's very outdated, but it will get you set up. Can't even talk right now. Okay. So now we have this neat little facial GUI thing, and we have one functional eyelid. So the eye controls have auto lid, so the lid follows the eye. You can change the sensitivity on that. Maybe you want to turn it off, or maybe you want to turn it to half. You can do whatever you want there. I think one's pretty cool. And yeah, this is why I use a weight percent tool, because then I know what value to use for the eyelashes. So I can just select an edge loop, go vertices, and apply the same weight that is applied to the eyelid. So now I would have to go in here and paint the eyelash, which is another adventure. Okay. We got our blink controllers here, and you see we have a major problem here, which is that the eyelid penetrates the eye geometry. The easiest way to fix it is to get some of that dual quaternion. Yeah, we love it. Where is it? DQ, Dairy Queen, blend weight. Get some of that up here. Place with one. Yeah, that's looking nice. And the reason why I like using Dairy Queen blend mode is so that places where you don't want dual quaternion, you can just get rid of it. The only thing is that you can't use DQ blend weight for games, because it's either one or the other. As far as I know. I mean, maybe something new has come along, but last time I checked, you cannot blend linear and dual quaternion in any game engine. But I could be wrong. So now we have an eyelid that doesn't penetrate. Now let's use this leg as an example. Right now, everything's looking pretty good in the leg. But if we go up in here and do dual quaternion over here, sometimes you get too much volume preservation. That just looks like very unnatural. So in some cases, classic linear is actually better. Oh god, where's... okay. So let's get rid of it. Get it out of here. It's mainly useful for the eyelid and twist joints, like in the forearm it's extremely useful. Some people like doing it on the knee too, but no, that doesn't really bother me. Sometimes it looks weird on the knee too. Looks like your kneecap just exploded. So I usually just don't even bother with the knee. Okay. And one thing that you might notice is that when you put your blink slider all the way down, it's not all the way closed. And that is an easy fix. Just go into your channel box, find this upper blink MDN for multiply divide node, and change this input to Y. The lower you go, the more rotation you'll get. So let's try like -50. That's pretty close. That's actually about right on. So that's good, and you can do whatever you want with this. Looks like -50's pretty good. just remember to change the value on the other one too. So this is the right blink. We can go ahead and change that to -50 as well. And now we have a cool little iRig. We have our blink slider, and we have our auto lid. At this point, I would set up custom sliders to get an OSIPA style official rig. So the main one that I like to do is sync because it makes lip syncing so easy. So I'll do that first to show you. So I'm just clicking make slider here, and I'm making a 4x4, and it gives you this dialog box what you want to name it. You can name it whatever you want, but I'm going to name it sync because that just makes sense. And there we go. Now I realize that all this stuff in here is really confusing, so I will try to go slow. It's a lot of just junk thrown into a tab. So after you make your slider, you want to prepare your slider. And what that does is it sets up a network of nodes that will drive these controls. And if you remember when we click prepare facial network, that's up a network of nodes on the controls. So let's just open up the node editor so you can kind of see what happens. So type in the name of your slider, and the name of your slider is the name of this yellow box here, JSC sync 1. I'm just going to copy and paste in here, and then I'm going to prep my slider, and it makes some nodes, bunch of condition nodes, and this is what will be plugged in. This is the network that decides what, you know, a downward motion does, or a diagonal motion. So after that's good to go, we can start applying some controls to the slider. For sync, I like down to be opening the jaw, so let's just make it nice and simple. I won't do it too much because this is just lip sync. So I'll lower that down a little bit, and then with this control selected, I will click joint CTR slider. Now the things that you have to have checked off before you do this is you have the name of the slider that you want in this box, you have the control type that you want, in this case it's bottom, and you have the controls that you want controlled selected. So I have jaw selected. Oops, not clavicle. So I'm going to click join CTR slider, and you see now it kind of plugged in some new nodes into these condition nodes. So now we have the downward motion. And now for right, I want a wide shape or smile. So the easiest way to do that is use the mirror function. And a smile usually looks sort of like this, sort of up. Maybe I'll scale the lower lip a little bit. And then the corner of mouth goes in a tiny bit. Sort of like that. And then we can mirror facial controls. So let's do the same thing, but change our orientation to right, and then select our controls, and click joint CTR slider. And now, oh, look at all these nodes, look at all of them, they're everywhere. And we've only done 2 connections. So now we got our smile and our open, and we can blend them. Okay, so for the left I want to do narrow. A narrow shape is just as it sounds, sort of like a kissy face, but it's more of a phenomenon, like the ooh shape. So let's mirror our shapes. I like to bring these guys in a little bit. That's looking pretty good. So we need all 5 of these controls again. we have left selected. We'll do join CTR slider. Okay. Now we got our narrow. And the up position will be an F shape. So that is curling the lower lip in a little bit. That's where our joint placement comes in handy. We can curl our lips in. And you don't have to do this, but I like to do the upper lip up a little bit because I think that looks like a better F. So we're going to use these 4 controls to define our top orientation of our slider. And the biggest thing at this stage is to save, 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 because you cannot undo this stuff. It's making so many nodes that if you try to undo it, it will just, Maya will collapse and crash and probably uninstall itself. So just save often at this point. So that's how you connect sliders. Usually I would set up a tongue shape or a tongue slider. So I'll do a 4x4 tongue. I'll do a brow shape. Oops. And I'm holding J for discrete move, and that will allow me to line everything up nicely. Or actually I didn't even do it here, but whatever. This should be 4.5 and this should be 3. You can enter in values too. What else do I do? Mouth emotion. Concatenate it to mouth emo. If you want to get more into facial animation, I would suggest buying Jason Osipa's Stop Staring. It's a nice introduction of facial animation, as well as modeling. It's a great resource for head modeling. And yeah, it's just blend shapes, it gets you into blend shapes. It's just a nice book all around for my users. And I would do maybe Sneer. Sneer's an easy one. It has to do with the nostrils. And we got room for one more to make everything look nice. You can always move these dots to make everything look neater. What do I want to make it? Cheeks. Make it cheeks. That would be a 4x2. Make slider. Cheeks. Okay, negative 3.5 and 7.5. Okay, so now we have a nice little facial rig that we can set up. And we have our syncing here. And then you got your tongue here to complete your syncing animation. And you just go through and set up all the other controls like I set up the sync controller. The only thing to remember, I don't remember if I said this or not. Honestly, I don't. Is to stick with diagonals or up and downs. So if you do a top left, stick with top left, top right, bottom left. If you stick with the left, stick with left, right, top, bottom. If you start mixing them, it'll just be really weird. Okay, so that is our facial rig all set up. We are syncing, and you can always go in here and offset. And I have discrete everything turned on right now. I don't know why this happens. Why is this happening? Okay. So you can do a passive animation with your sliders. and then go back in and do little offsets as a second pass. That's why the system's so flexible, and that's why I hate blend shapes, because they suck. So this is a very, they don't suck, they're okay. This is a very flexible system. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it, and if you're going for an ultra realistic character and you have some sort of knowledge of nodes, you can even connect normal maps to different sliders. So maybe I'll connect a creased forehead shape to the brow up, and maybe a crunched inward brow normal map to brow down, like the angry shape. And that will give you a nice realistic effect. Okay. Let's go and save that. I'm just going to open up a rig that's already done, and I'm going to show you all the features for RigHelper. I might actually have one of these characters, or this character that's set up. Are you skinned? It looks like it. Alright, nice. Okay, so these are the features of RigHelper from the bottom up. Here you have your mover control. This is what you use to move your character throughout the scene. You have global scale. Scale your character up and down. 100 is default. Control visibility is for previewing your animations. If you turn it off, you can go ahead and get all that junk out of your way without having to hide stuff. Next up we have our... Okay, I was just checking something. We have our leg IK control, which behaves like a standard IK control. It has no flip. So if you think you need your character to do some weird shit like this, you can do that. The knee is controlled by an attribute. The knee attribute. Believe it or not, it's called knee. If you would rather animate with a pull vector, you can turn it on. But now you have to deal with this little bastard. Oh god. Alright, this little bastard. And you have to key it, and it's just annoying. So that's why using the knee is useful. But if you want to do knee locking, you will have to turn on this pull vector, and then you can lock the knee. And it looks really bad because the skinning isn't perfect. But if I fix my skinning, it would look so terrible. But knee locking basically just locks the knee at a specific point. And this is only if you set up stretchy. It's a feature of stretchy. And you can turn stretch on, again, only if you set up stretchy. And you get this cool little squash and stretch stuff. You can play with the stretch amount, like that. Okay. You got your ball rotate, your banks, your side banks, toe pivot, heel pivot, and you also have hip parent in case you want this to behave like it's parented to the hips. So if your character's free falling, skydiving, jumping, any of that cool stuff, you can parent it like so. Alright, next up we got the hips, which is part of the spline IK rig, unless you're using the FK spline rig. So it just controls the hips. You can translate and rotate it however you want, but just remember, if you are in FK mode, the translating will not do anything. Here is your root controller. It behaves like any other cog. or root controller would, or COM. I don't know, everyone calls it something different. I call it root. On here you have your IK/FK switches for the arm. You have an IK/FK switch for the spine. You have bendy controls. So if you set up, I didn't even skin these, I don't think. Oh, I did. Amazing. Well, I scanned this, but I don't think I scanned the thigh. No. So you can get that rubber hose effect. And also, particular to this one, you can change the bicep flex amount. Because when you rotate this joint, you get some motion in the bicep. Here, I'll show you actually. That's only if you skin it. There are these little guys right here that kind of poke out. So you see you get some extra motion. And you can change the amount that they... I guess I do have skinning on them, it's just really bad. You can turn it off or turn it to 0.5 or turn it to 1. It's defaulted at 0.5. Okay, so I leave bendy off because I think it's stupid. Face rig you can turn on or off. If you set up a facial GUI, that will be here too. But this particular rig doesn't have it. Here's your ultra standard FK spine that I love. I love the normal. I don't know why it has different orientations. I don't know how that happens. That might be a bug. If anyone else has an orientation where you select all three of these and they don't rotate together, that is not right and I should fix it. But you can also translate these to get a stretchy effect. If you like using the spline IK, you can turn that on. It's a good rig, it's not very realistic, or it doesn't give you very realistic results. But it has squash and stretch, which is so fun. Just if you get too low, it'll become unstable and explode into infinity. Or collapse. Oh god. So just be careful. Okay. Turn that back to FK. There we go. Here's your FK arms. You have your clavicle here. Just good for shoulder raises. Raise that shoulder up. The FK arm rig is very standard. You shouldn't really need any explanation for this. Here's your finger control. All the fingers are controlled with this one guy here. So you can drag, control, select these to select multiple ones. So if you want to get a fist, you can very quickly edit some attributes and get a fist. You have some spread attributes as well, so you can kind of close up that gap or whatever you want to do. And new thing is there's also roll too, so you have complete control over all the fingers. So that is the finger controller. IK is just the standard IK controller. It's got stretchy if you set it up. It's pretty much like the leg. You got your elbow attribute here. If you like pull vectors, little devils, you can use them. But I really like using that attribute. And you also have some parents here. So maybe you want to dynamic parent this to the hip. You can turn that parent on, and now it follows along. Do some sweet dance moves or something. And you got that for the head, chest, left foot, and right foot. Now onto the head controller. Translating it moves the base of the neck, and rotating it moves the top of the neck. You got squash and stretch here. Again. So that's what's going on there. And this chest parent is useless. I don't know, maybe you'll find a use for it. You can turn the parent off, and now the head will stay put, so I'm going to turn stretchy on too. No, it's on. It's on. And now you can do stuff like this, which is ridiculous. But maybe you want this for animation, I don't know. So mainly you'll just leave this on like that. Okay. And you kind of saw how the facial GUI works because I went over that already. The facial rig is nothing special. It's just a bunch of boxes that you move around. The jaw controls some of these. You got your tongue in here. Ooh, it's not supposed to do that. Yeah, you just move them around. The only thing that's special here is that you have sticky lips, so you can do something like this. And that is on the jaw controller. And you have your eyelid controllers here. You can do some wacky stuff, but of course I didn't skin them because I hate skinning eyelids. I'll do it sometime, sooner or later. Okay, that's everything. The last thing that I'm going to go over is the animation tab. And I'll just go over that very quickly because this video is probably well over an hour. Okay, so first thing you got is mirror facial controls. You kind of saw what was going on there in the facial GUI part, so you can mirror them. You can reset the source so it kind of flips over to the other side. You can go right to left. So maybe you want to work. Okay, well it looks like I got some bugs to fix here. Wait, no I don't. Oh yes I do. Okay. Anyways, that should go right to left, but not. And reset source should make it so it swaps the pose from one side to the other. So I need to fix that. Zeros is very useful. It just zeros out your rig. So oops. Let's get some wacky poses going on here. And you can just hit zeros and it will zero everything out. Mirror body controls does exactly what it says. So you can mirror body controls. If you want to get a perfectly symmetrical pose, you can do that with this button. I'm going to turn FK arms on. Basically what you do is you set a key on the side that has some movement to it. Then you will mirror the body controls, set a key on the other side, and then scrub in your timeline, and that will restore this position. So that's how you do that. This mirror bias control is very useful for doing something like a walk cycle, because you can very easily just mirror the pose and save a lot of time. So you have your contact pose right here. It'll be a big step. So you'll key the root and the feet, and at frame 13 will be just the opposite of that. So let's mirror our body controls, key that, and then on frame 25 it'll be frame 1. So all you do is you left click on frame 1 and then middle mouse button click on frame 25 and key that. Apparently I didn't key everything when I mirrored the body controls, so mirror body controls, frame 13, key all that junk. There we go. And what the fuck? Key out. Alright, there we go. And so there you have your basic walk cycle, except for you'd make it look beautiful, not ugly like this. So this foot plants. Key it there. Middle mouse dragging makes it so nothing updates, which is very useful. Animation, graph editors. Now you notice that between here the foot isn't moving because, oh fuck it, just okay, delete these keys. Basically in the middle here you want the ball and bank to be 0. So you actually do want these frames update. 0, key, and this will be serve up, plant, and then now this is planted, key, still planted here, key, and this will be up a little bit here, but we do want be sort of like that. And to get this set up on the other part of the walk cycle, we can mirror body controls, middle mouse drag to the corresponding frame and key that. And then once we get to that point, we can do some motion on our root control. Get our down, or up, and then we can use our middle mouse button trick to just drag over to our frame that we want, go to the opposite corresponding frame, key it, do the same thing for the up position, key that, and we got a basic walk cycle. So in like 5 minutes we got a walk cycle with this mirror bodies control. So it's very useful. I use it all the time. And then we can always just half-ass our arms, because who cares about those things? Okay. At least the feet look good. So that's how you animate using that. Hopefully that kind of made sense. I'll just go over again because I know I rush through things a lot. So, left click updates the frame. Middle mouse button doesn't. So if you want to copy a key from one place to another, say we want this key on frame 4 to be on frame 16. If you drag along, you'll lose that pose. So just left click on the pose that you want and middle mouse button drag to the frame you want and press S and key it. And that copies the pose over. So that's what I was doing with the feet. I would select both of them. This is the pose that we want, but we want it to be the opposite on frame 13. So I'll go ahead and mirror this pose, middle mouse button drag to 13 and key it, and didn't do anything. Mirror. It's because there's not a key here. There you go. Yeah, you need 2 keys for animation. and that's how I do that. And everything that's doing after that was just me being me and trying to make a beautiful walk cycle. So that is how you use the animation tab of RigHelper. I am going to write a bunch of new code for some various things. I want to write a pose library. That's going to be a huge undertaking though, because I have to learn IO for Mel, which I don't even know where to start with, but I know it's possible, so it's just something new to learn. So that's RigHelper for you. Hopefully this video helps you set up your characters with good deformations and a rig that should be very easy to animate. If you'd like to see any new features in RigHelper, I'm always open to that. I've gotten a lot of good suggestions from people. 2 people actually suggested that I come up with something that will read what your file settings are. So that is actually in the new version of RigHelper. If you open up a new scene, it'll read how many spine joints, how many fingers, if you have a facial rig, and if you have stretchy. It knows all that, so it's a little bit smarter. It'll make your life a little bit easier. Animation stuff is coming, like I said. But if you would like to see anything else in the skin tab, the custom facial GUI stuff, I'm never touching again. That was a nightmare, so don't even ask about it. No, I'm kidding, you can ask about it. But my code's a little messy. So I hope you like RigHelper, and I would love to hear your feedback. Thanks for watching.